Guard man the barricades, patrol the cover boundary. At last the time is come, this is a cricketing emergency. Hear this call to arms for every cricket revolutionary. Take up your bats and stumps for the test match insurgency. At first they tried to silence us, but we would not be silenced. They threatened us with lies, so we threatened them with violence. Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket. It's not about the winning, it's about how many rules you break. Even in cricket commentary, this is the best advice to take. Pick guerrilla cricket, it's the finest choice you'll ever make. There's so much more to cricket than rev counters and a slice of cake. At first they tried to sanitize us and clean up our act, but people like it filthy, and we know that for a fact. Fidel Castro, Lenny Pascoe, Carlos the Jackal, Umar Akmal, Mahatma Gandhi, Grant and Andy, Brendan Behan, Austin Ian, guerrilla cricket. Stick with us, cause you know we're not the kind of thing that you see on the TV and the radio. So vive la revolution. First they tried to buy us, but we would not be bought. Okay, we were, but then we ran away, and we will not be caught. We would not give up the ghost when they left us all for dead. They decapitated us, but we just grew another head. Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket.
Well, say what you like about the Manchester weather, it has afforded us two cracking final day finishes, and today's could be the most exciting of the pair as England go in search of 8 wickets and West Indies go in search of an obdurate spirit that would retain them the Wisden Trophy. Good morning, good afternoon, good dawn, good dusk, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Guerrilla Cricket. I'm Gorilla Hendo, Nigel Henderson, and we have the final day of the series in front of us, and it's been a pretty darn good series. Thanks to the West Indies for coming. Thanks for giving us some cricket. And I wouldn't be too upset if you were to take that Wisden Trophy away with you, because it would make for a wonderful final day and a wonderful rearguard action. Stuart Broad is on 499 wickets. One more and he will become only the second England bowler to take 500 after his great mate Jimmy Anderson, who also did that against the West Indies 3 summers ago. Good morning to the Bear. Good morning to Jono. They are the men with me this morning for what will be, well, it's not a crucial first hour, it's just an interesting first hour, as it will be an interesting second hour and third hour and fourth hour. How are you feeling about it, Johnny?
Yeah, good morning, gents. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I think, do you know what, Hendo? I'm with you on the fact that I wouldn't mind seeing the West Indies actually do this. I think, a great advert for Test cricket over the 3 tests. Obviously, the weather's played its part in 2 4-day tests, effectively.
Yeah.
But we do have to remember that they've taken great personal risk, in theory, by coming over here to do this. There's been some great entertainment over the 3 tests. And today will prove to be an interesting one. I think Bear said yesterday backing it to be done by tea. I'm not quite sure myself. But yeah, very much looking forward to being a part of it today. Yeah,
it depends on how much life is left in the West Indies, Bear. What do you think?
Well,
they've got They got the petrol in the tank to get through the day?
I don't think they have, and that's the thing. I think it's noticeable in the last 2 days of this test that the energy seemed to go. England seemed to get away. They realised they were in a spot of bother and the heads went down. I think that's a fair evaluation of what happened.
Did you think the heads really... I never really felt that the heads had gone down completely.
Well, I just think that maybe not in the field, but definitely in the batting. The batting relies, it's relied on Brathwaite and it's relied on Blackwood further down the order. Shai Hope's done nothing. Jason's had a pretty poor series. Those are the people who need to stand up on the West Indies side, and none of them, apart from a couple of innings, it's not really happened. They did really well in the first test, but I think they've made mistakes in the next two, in bowling first, especially the second time round at Old Trafford. You saw what happened first time round. You can't do the same thing the second time round. I think they thought they might get the breakthroughs early on. Once again, Shannon Gabriel's in. I mean, Dave's had rants about this the entire series. About they haven't changed their side. They think they've only got the one strongest side. And England have the massive advantage of being able to rotate all the bowlers. And we've got some good bowling attack. And this test, it's a pretty stunning bowling attack. And if Stokes gets a go as well, you've got 5 decent, seamers. And the West Indies have gone with the same attack game after game after game. Not only is there no rotation, but the English batsmen get to see the same bowlers over and over and over again and create plans for those bowlers, whereas the West Indies have had to chop and change depending on who's in and who's out. So I think in the end we've got over the hump, and I do think it'll be over by tea. I think it might even be over by lunch. If England get a couple of early ones today, be done by lunch, mate.
You think that the spirit will have been crushed?
Yeah, I think it will. There's always a straw that breaks the camel's back, and that could be it.
Yeah, fair point, but we should remember that Craig Brathwaite and Shai Hope are at the crease, and if you remember back 3 years, just across the Pennines to Headingley, where those two men did brilliant things, is there anything left for Shai Hope? He's had such a difficult series. Could he just produce on the final day, Jono?
You've got to look at it and say you'd think not, haven't you? I think, confidence is going to be shot to pieces. The one omission there, I think, from Bear's positive view is, I think Shamar Brooks has been a revelation. I've said this a few times. I think for someone who's, had the build-up as a youngster and then kind of was sent out to pasture a little bit, come into the test side, relatively late on in his career. I think he's had a fantastic series, and I think he's arguably looked the best out of the lot of them. He
does look good. He looks better than Blackwood to me, but he has got to go on and score a big one. He's had a couple of 60s in the previous test, of course. Didn't fare too well in the first innings here. But let's have a little word about Stuart Broad as well. 499 wickets. He's turned it around after the disappointment of the first test, and he will become only the second England bowler to take 500 wickets. An amazing achievement.
I think you can see that happening relatively quickly this morning as well. The lengths he's bowled, everybody's in jumpers. If he can get his speeds up and get his body moving, I think he's got a long sleeve underneath a sleeveless jumper by the looks of it. So
yes, hasn't he? Yeah.
Manchester doesn't look too warm this morning.
No, it doesn't.
No.
I think. Well, I'm trying to get into my betting account because I got the first 2 unders on the West Indians, and I did put in for the third one, and then they went off a bad light, and I can't remember what it was, but it was bloody skinny. Oh no, I've got under 26.5. What are they, 10 for 1?
10 for 2.
20 for 2.
10 for 2.
I think that's a good bet.
Well, the first over of the morning looks likely to be bowled by Jimmy Anderson. He bowled 3 overs, 2 maidens, none for 2. Way back on, what night was it? Sunday, wasn't it?
Indeed.
He's going to bowl the first over, and here is his jingle.
Jimmy was a local boy, but he see much more than the change in the weather. Sitting in a uniform of a 3-piece suit and the ribbons from his past.
And it will be Craig Brathwaite to face.
Have we got time to play his jingle too?
Go for it. Go for it.
My spelling ain't strong. Can you tell me if I spelled your name all wrong? I wrote it down with a C before. Now is it 2 G's? I wanna be sure. Craig Brathwaite is hard to spell, it's true, but now I've got it right. Yeah, Craig Brathwaite is hard to spell, it's true, now I've got it right.
Now, can you get the door?
You may have just heard the bear shouting. There's someone at his door. There's
Fred's
somebody
at the door.
as we used to say. Anderson will bowl the first ball of the morning, and he's in to Brathwaite, and it's on the leg stump. He turns it away to
There we go.
back
Get
with
the door.
square leg, and there is.
Okay.
I just had to mute myself while I coughed. I'm afraid to say.
Don't
There was
cough.
a
You got COVID.
I certainly hope not. There's a strong wind at Old Trafford as well today, by the looks of things, the way that the flags are fluttering in the breeze. We got 98 overs technically today, and at 5:30 or 83 overs with 15 overs remaining, they will have the last hour. It's always a bit confusing on the final day, isn't it? Full up outside the off stump, driven neatly to extra cover, and there is no run. The session times are as follows. The first session will be 11 till 1 o'clock. The second session will be 1:40 to 3:55, and the third session will be 4:15 onwards if we require that. The GPL is open, £34 in the pot. Please get onto that. It's your last chance in this series. Estimate how many runs you think will be scored in the day. You have until lunch or until the West Indies are 6 wickets down. Anderson in, bowls to Brathwaite, who gets in behind a full delivery outside the off stump, shovels it towards extra cover, and there is no run. Anyone joined us on Twitter this morning?
Yes, we have Brian 001 out walking to the shops. They came past the county ground in Northampton, all locked up, security on the gates, but some players in training, and he took some dodgy 007 pics for us that are on our Twitter feed. In terms of Crick Tracker,
Can you sync the TV, Knackle?
Bear, turn yourself off when you shout. In comes Anderson, bowls and beats Brathwaite this time outside the off stump, goes through to the keeper. There is no run.
Kamlesh Raj says hi. Replying to him, Tana Warwick says hello you. Gorilla Cricket obviously replying hi everybody. Good to have you all with us. Get in touch. Nice to know what you're thinking at any given point.
Absolutely. And after missing a complete day yesterday, I thought they'd be chomping at the bit on Twitter this morning. And Crick Tracker, very interesting stance that Brathwaite has. I'll come back to that in a moment as he goes onto the back foot and again pushes to Wokes at extra cover. Now, we so often see these days a wide stance, a wide positioning of the legs by batsmen, which is against what I was taught. It was much. You did have your feet much closer to the back, behind the right toe if you were a right batsman, right-handed batsman, and then so often you see these days them wide apart and the bat inside the back foot. In comes Anderson, bowls. That's a lovely straight probing delivery, which Brathwaite deals with, pushing up to mid-on. But Brathwaite has his feet absolutely together. It doesn't look like a very balanced position, Johnny. What do you think?
Yeah, Trescothick always, I always looked at and thought was quite upright. Feet quite close together, not a huge amount of foot movement, but like to get through like to play on the front foot through the offside quite a lot. I think it was Peterson was always the one that I remember as looking at and thinking he's got an incredibly wide stance.
Yeah.
And over my kind of faux career, if you like, time playing cricket, I've kind of adopted the wide stance because I prefer to be low. Yeah, I prefer to be lower, so I really crouch when the bowler's about to release because I feel like if I'm low, then obviously in terms of getting up and under the ball, absolutely fine. But I just feel it gives me a much better balance.
That's interesting. I mean, I asked this question of Alan Butcher on one occasion when we had him on the show, and he said it was just sort of fashion as much as anything, and a phase. I think I would find it very difficult. I mean, as I say, I don't play anymore, but I would find that wide stance very difficult. I just think it's. I would struggle with it for some reason. I wouldn't feel comfortable and balanced.
Horses for courses, isn't it? Whatever makes
horses for courses
comfortable.
Well, exactly. I mean, I still. Well, I haven't played for 3 years, but I used to have the Grand Reach stance, which I took up when he started doing it with the bat up and flat on the back.
Broad then starts into Shea Hope, who goes back and defends the ball gently into the offside. Shall we jingle up the man on the brink of 500 wickets?
Let's do that.
Sweep the leg, Brody. Got the best headband around. It's Something has got to keep her down. Got the best headband around. Your ego ain't gonna be kept down. Got the best headband around. Even though your hair is thinning now.
I take issue with that. I've got a fabulous blue headband on. In comes Broad. Shea Hope defends. That's fielded in the gully by Rory Burns, scampering to his right. And again, there is no run. The target is 399, 389 more. You don't often get 380 scored in a day of Test cricket, so I would think it was highly unlikely that the West Indies could win this and go out in great fashion. But they can survive, and they can take the Wisden Trophy, or retain the Wisden Trophy, we should say.
And keep it.
And keep it forever and ever and ever. And
Much like the World Cup when you win it 5 times or whatever it is.
Is that right? Broad in again, bowls to Hope. Hope defends the ball on the line of off stump, and it goes straight back to the bowler.
Yeah, because aren't Brazil the only
no run.
Brazil are the only team who have ever done that, aren't they? And they got the one with the wings, and now we've got the one with the world on top of it.
Oh, sorry, you're talking about football World Cup.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't think anyone's
Hang on.
won the Cricket World Cup 5 times, have they?
Haven't they? Australia.
They won
Australia must have.
5
Yeah.
times. Okay, I don't. Maybe they do get to keep the trophy. I don't know.
Um,
I don't know.
Well, we saw it was a different World Cup last year, wasn't it, from the originals? As we know, because we put it on a T-shirt. Onto the back foot goes Shea Hope. There's a mix of pad and bat and glove, but somehow he gets the ball out into the offside, and there is no run. Sunshine at the moment. Blue sky over Old Trafford, which is good news, really, because we get cricket. England might prefer it to be a little bit cloudier and gloomier to help swing, but I think they'd be pretty happy to be out there. Stuart Broad is the leading wicket taker in this series, despite only playing 2 matches. 14, he's got an average of 10. 10! That must be his best series by some margin. He's in again, full and driven by Shea Hope. I'm not quite sure he wanted it to go that far behind square, but he's found the gap between gully and backward point, and it's run away for one of these.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
Interestingly, just with Broad's jingle there, I actually finished watching The Karate Kid this morning. It just appeared on Netflix, so I was just like, sod it, I'm going to watch it. It might not be Christmas, but I'm going to do it anyway.
The original.
Original, yeah. Brathwaite was also Jimmy's 500 wicket. Wouldn't it be
That's right.
brilliant if it was Broad's as well?
I was thinking that this morning. Absolutely. Here comes Broad. He's not bowling to Brathwaite at the moment. He's bowling to Hope, and he's in. And Hope comes down on that outside the off stump and pushes it up towards extra cover. That is the end of the over. West Indies have moved to 14 for 2 wickets. Any more tweets?
Yeah, Leo Wicket Witch says West Indies' last best hope for a draw. Now, I don't know this Marvel character, but it's a lady with white hair who looks like she's throwing lightning at people. So
Storm, I guess.
Storm. Good. That would make complete sense, Ben. Martin Lawrence at Guerrilla Cricket, as I said a few days ago, the sides against Ireland will be on 2 late in Australia, so I'll hear you in August for the Pakistan series. Thank you, West Indies, and thanks to my Guerrilla friends. Always great to have you with us, Martin.
Yep. I'm sorry about the time difference and what happens with regards England-Ireland. Anderson starts a new over, clipped away from middle stump by Brathwaite with a minimum of movement, really. He's going to get a couple of runs through mid-wicket. They're back, and so those first runs for Brathwaite this morning. He moves to 4. Hope has 8. The West Indies have moved on to 16 for 2.
Just doing some.
Sorry, Bear, go on.
I was going to say, just doing some housekeeping. The GPL is open as per normal. Obviously, no one's entered yet. That's not surprising. But the pot is 34 quid today. So you can jump in on that. You know the rules. Guess the amount of runs. Enter it into the back end of our website and see if you win at the end of the day.
Anderson in bowls, and Brathwaite hops back, defends a ball that keeps a little bit low towards extra cover, and there is no run. Well, talking about watching the Karate Kid and talking of it as a Christmas movie, I'm trying to think what the worst Christmas movie I've ever had to endure is, and I think that's quite a good could be quite a good little challenge for people on Twitter.
Well,
your worst Christmas movie. Mine has to be Kindergarten Cops with was it Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh God, I had to watch it. I had a horrible. Well, I wouldn't say it was a horrible Christmas day. Anderson in, bowls onto the back foot goes Brathwaite. That defends again to extra cover, keeping Chris Wokes busy. When I lived in Bermuda, Christmas Day, you'd go down to the beach and then really wouldn't know what to do with the rest of the day. And I think 3 of us who were fairly new to the island ended up watching on American TV Kindergarten Cops. And I can tell you, we were brain dead by the end of it.
Well, I'm gonna say to you, Hendo, you should be watching Channel 5 for the last few years. They start Christmas movies at the beginning of December, and they have all these. I mean, Kindergarten Cop is high-end Christmas movie. It's got Schwarzenegger. You should see the shit they throw out. You should see the crap they throw out on Channel 5 for a month before Christmas.
Anderson beats Brathwaite as again he's trying to fiddle the ball into the offside. He does look uncomfortable before he's settled, does Brathwaite. He still plays like that as his innings goes on, but he looks more confident in doing it at the moment. He gets very front on to that one, and there's just a little bit of away shape from Anderson that takes it through to Josh Butler.
Nestlers has been on. Good morning, folks. Toast has been taken. Morning.
Hey,
nice.
Johnny Oak. Afternoon. Chomping at the bit. In fact, some olive sourdough.
Right. Again, onto the back foot, just jabbing the bat down on it at the last minute. Brathwaite pushing it to extra cover. I think probably Chris Wokes is the only man who's fielded the ball this morning. That certainly seems to be the way. Brathwaite now scratching away at his crease. I would like to see a little bit more of Brathwaite from side on to see what is, whether he does kind of separate those feet at any point when he's defending. I'm not sure that he does. I'm not sure that he moves back that far. He seems to hop on the spot.
There is no intent this morning. It's dead bat central.
It is, yeah. Actually, you would expect to see this from a number 9 or 10, perhaps, on a park. Anderson in, bowls, and again he has to get the bat down in front of pad there. It was dead straight. He defends it back to the bowler. It's the end of the over. It's a maiden, 16 for 2.
Say good morning to Mog, who says hello. Good morning, Mog. Mutley. Oh wow, we actually have play. I looked at the weather this morning and thought it was going to be too wet. Lego is the order of the day. 3 cars, 3 sessions. We'll try to do one each session. Love and sausage.
I like that idea. They can be really annoying, those Lego kits, though. They're harder than you think, man.
Yeah, Lego. It's a long time since I did Lego. Results from our overnight Twitter poll. England to win before lunch, 5.5%. England to win before tea, 34.7%. England to win after tea, 36.7%. Draw, 23.1%. That's quite a hefty backing for the West Indies there. Broad is in to Hope, and Hope drives, and that's a solid bounding shot. It's horribly misfielded by Jofra Archer, who then rather jogs back as if to hide his embarrassment and looks at his fingers. They run through for a single, so it does bring Brathwaite down to face Broad. This could be it. Broad, I wonder what odds you would have got on saying that, 1, that Broad would get to 500 wickets, 2, that Anderson would get to 500 wickets, and they both have the same victim for their 500th wicket. That would be phenomenal.
A lot of odds.
Fantastic.
That midfield from Archie could turn out to be one of the best things.
Well, exactly. Was it the plan?
May have been deliberate. A leg gully has come in, almost a backward short leg, maybe 10 yards from the bat, suggesting that we might get a bit of peppering of Brathwaite. Anyway, Broad stands at the end of his run, waits for the batsman to get himself focused and ready, and will come in, muttering away to himself. Broady, maybe he's thinking about another field change. So anyway, just places his fingers on the seam and runs up past the umpire, bowls and beats Brathwaite outside the off stump, and nasty take for Josh Butler, bounced just before him. And he's giving applause to his bowler and giving him support. That kept very low as well. Actually, Broad will like that, because if he can get that one straight, he's got a walking LBW. So just signs perhaps that this pitch is breaking up a little bit. 17 for 2 is the score. In comes Broad again with the white headband. He's in, he bowls. Brathwaite is in behind this one, back of a length. Broad tries to flick it up with his boot on its return, but fails dismally. There is no run.
There is zero intent from Craig Brathwaite to play any kind of shot this morning. It is literally, he's watching the ball off the pitch, And if you watch him, he's almost just dropping his hands.
Yes.
The bat, there is no forward momentum with the bat at all. It's literally just drop it, play it in front of his eyes. If you've ever been after seeing a stall set out,
Yeah.
you get A, ladies and gentlemen.
This is it. Broad in. Bowles hit him on the pad. There'll be an appeal there. Umpire Goff shakes his head. A little bit high, perhaps, or a suggestion of an inside edge. Are they going to review? I don't think so.
I don't like Goffey in a cap. I've just decided.
No, he looks much better in the sun hat, doesn't he? Yeah. We better tell him that. Get onto his fashion advisor.
Get on the tweets.
Goff, get your flipping head, get your headgear sorted. That was quite high, wasn't it? It was hit him above the pad, really, on the inner thigh, which of course can be quite painful. But no further damage done to the West Indies innings at this stage. Broad's very quizzical about it. Was looking at route for some support, didn't get it, and here he is again, striding up to the crease. Bowls full. Met beautifully by Brathwaite. Well, he may not have much of a follow through, and he may just drop the bat on it, but he's timed the pants off that one, and that has raced to the boundary. Jofra Archer has no chance, and it's 4 runs. Yep, that was a lovely piece of timing. Just opening the face ever so slightly and guiding it away to the left of the man at mid-off. Anyway, he moves on to 8 now, and the West Indies to 21 for 2. Apparently, I've got a really good stat to tell you at the end of this over, which will come in 1 ball. He settles down, and Broad will want a measure of revenge for that. He comes in, he bowls, and this time he defends on the back foot. That is the end of the over. Apparently, according to CricViz data, in the 2 years up to this series, Brathwaite stood further outside his crease than any other opening batsman. He's now reverted to standing on, if not inside the crease. Well, he has had a couple of years that haven't been that prolific for him, so maybe he's thought that he needs a change. But that is extraordinary. You can have a stat about everything, can't you? That's a stat I wouldn't even thought about. Or
who puts all these stats together?
Well, CricViz.
How many people he got?
How much time? I agree. How much time have people got? Obviously, too much time. Anyway,
I think on slower wickets you can stand out your crease a little bit more. I think Old Trafford is one of the quicker wickets in the UK, but certainly in the West Indies you'd expect him to stand outside his crease as well.
Anderson in bowls, beauty that beats hope as he tries to cover up outside the off stump. He goes straight down the wicket to inspect where that pitched, as if it had come off something very mysterious. So he survives. The score remains 21 for 2. More tweets?
Yes, we have message Jazz. Afternoon all. There's one of the 6% who expect this to be over by lunch. I have to say I think England has this in the bag.
The bag, not the famous bag, Mash's famous bag.
Not Mash's bag.
There's been a lot of talk on WhatsApp about Mash's famous bag. Oh, what a beauty from Anderson. Goes right through Hope this time. Beats him on the inside edge. 84 miles an hour, but one of those that seemed to gather impetus off the pitch. A lovely delivery from Anderson. Just jagging back. And almost shocked Butler with the movement, I think, there. Just a little bit too high, otherwise that would have been the end of Hope.
Dave Wood's been in touch. Says, interesting stat of the weekend. Which England bowler has the most test wickets against Bangladesh, but then doesn't offer an answer, so it's more of a question than a stat.
That's a tricky one. Onto the back foot goes Hope. He's going to get a run here as he chops that into the covers, just to the left of Wokes. He goes into double figures. The West Indies move to 22 for 2.
That'd be quite an interesting one to think about what the answer might be there. Who will have taught? I mean, how long have we been touring Bangladesh?
Well, since 2009, 2008, something like that. 2009 was, I think it was Test Match Sofa's first series, wasn't it, Bear?
Sorry again, sorry?
Bangladesh going into 2009, 2010, the Bangladesh away series. I think that was the one when Alistair Cook took over as captain, I think, just for that series.
Oh, yes. That was a weird side. That was going to be a Carver inside, wasn't it?
Yeah, indeed. Flicked into the onside, this time by Brathwaite. They might have thought about 2, but they stop at 1, and the score moves on to 23 for 2. I mean, there are ways and means through Stats Guru of working these things out, but I think it would take a little bit of time, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, there's something from the green room says, I've looked at the Bangladesh stat. Hint, it's not a currently active player.
Right. Most wickets against Bangladesh. It's an extraordinary question. It's random. It's so random. Anderson in again, bowls. And nicely played by Hope, who opened the face to steer it wide of the man at mid-off.
Swanee.
They will get back for 2.
Swanee.
Hope goes to 12. Brathwaite 9. 25 for 2. Who are you saying good morning to?
Who was saying... No, I was saying Swanee.
Okay, Swanee.
But I was wrong. He's second.
Oh, right.
Moeen? No. Yeah, possibly. No.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. Are we talking in Bangladesh or in Bangladesh and England? Anderson in, bowls. Oh, and he seems to be rather late on that, Hope, but in doing so, glances it away. Very fine indeed. To the annoyance of Anderson, it's gone for 4. Moeen is 5th on that list, apparently. So, I don't know, who were we watching in
Monty
2019?
Panesar.
Panesar.
Nice.
Possibly. Anyway, that was the end of the over. West Indies have moved to 29 for 2 from 10 for 2 this morning, so 19 runs added so far. Brathwaite has edged on to 9, and Hope has made 16 from 23. It's a seamer. The clues are coming in at a rush, but I still can't think a seamer. Not Stephen Finn.
No. Harmison? Flintoff? When did Flintoff finish?
Matthew Hoggard?
Hoggard, possibly.
We've got joint third. Finn and Harmison are joint third, and I have taken the title. I named Matthew.
When did we first start playing Bangladesh then? You've frozen, Hendo. In a great stance.
Lovely.
He's frozen with his arm up in the air in valediction even.
Celebrating something.
You keep coming in and out. He's disappeared again.
I need a reload.
There's trouble at internet in Wimbledon. Broad in bowls, and it's driven nicely by Brathwaite. Beats a short extra cover, and it's being chased down by Jimmy. Is that? It is, isn't it?
It is.
Not happy after bowling an over, having to chase back for 2. Off Broad's next ball. Hendo, we can't hear you, and your screen is pictured. I wish I could take a screenshot of that. Someone could. That'd be quite funny.
He must be rebooted.
Yeah. He's left the room. He's probably going to have to come back in. Might have to turn his internet on and off again, because that's what happens in Wimbledon.
Hoggard, 23 wickets in 4 games at 16.73. An away series in October 2003 and a home series in 2005 just before that.
Yeah, because we haven't been playing them that long as a Test playing nation. Broad is in, and it's played out to the covers, and there's no run.
And he's back.
Now this is extraordinary. I seem to be back.
Yeah. Okay.
I lost the internet, and then it just popped up again. I don't know what's going on out there.
Well, that's what happens. Look, there's rain on the thingy. It is what happens. I mean, our internet's gone down at certain times of day, almost religiously. It's like they switch, or it gets overloaded because of something. It's been doing it for days.
Well, we may be about to lose cricket because they're getting ready, the ground staff. Flicked away this time by Brathwaite through mid-wicket. He's timed that really nicely as well, and it's brought him for 2 mid-wicket.
There's not one boy for me, I must have 2 or 3, I need 4.
You should have seen how you stopped, Hendo. When your screen froze, you were like this, because you got Matthew Hoggard right. It was quite funny.
That's a good way to end. I'd like that on my tombstone, please. A picture of triumph.
I did watch the forecast for Manchester last night, and I think they will get some passing rain today. I go back to my thoughts on a negative declaration.
Oh yes, we did cover that in some detail yesterday. And I think that is the break that the West Indies at least are looking for. That said, they've made a reasonably good start this morning, so running on and running back on again and having to get their eyes back in again is not necessarily conducive to a successful performance. The ball is handed to Michael Goff in his cap, and as the break comes halfway through the 12th over, the West Indies have moved on to 35 for 2. The big hover cover is being brought on. Yes, I did see Michael Atherton speaking this morning, saying he thought that any rain was going to be there in the first hour, which kind of made me rather annoyed since I'm only here for a couple of hours. And it is indeed going over the top of the pitch now. They're not rushing to get off, so that would suggest that it's not absolutely steaming down.
No, I mean, from what I saw this morning and from listening to the Sky boys before they went on air, it was there's a really, really strong wind, and they're expecting showers, but they reckon they'll blow through pretty quick.
Yeah, well, that's
This looks
better than
quite
what we had
heavy,
yesterday, isn't it? Yeah, goodness. I mean, just that sort of steady rain, which is really irritating, especially when it's just drizzle. It looks a little bit more than drizzle, but it doesn't look. It's not monsoon-like,
Well,
as we've sometimes feared.
I think when you consider the position and the well documented, certainly through our conversations about, the lack of rotation from the West Indies versus England's decision to obviously rest Broad, then rest Anderson, and obviously the Archer situation, whatever. If the West Indies were to come out of this with a draw today, be it through negative declaration or rain or whatever, that to them will have to feel like a 3-0 victory. They will be cock-a-hoop.
Oh, they will be cock-a-hoop, no doubt about it. I don't think it was that negative a declaration.
Awful there, awful.
Oh, you said that last week. You were totally wrong.
Well, no, just because we bowled them out doesn't make it a negative declaration. That's just hiding the fact that it's a negative declaration.
I don't think you could have declared last week on 250. That's offering. I know it's offering a biscuit, but it's offering a bloody big barrel of biscuits. You know what I mean? It's like it's too close to the bone.
Not when they only made 180.
Well, that's true, but I mean, 250 is not a lot of runs.
Hendo's me. I reckon Hendo would be a much better captain than you, Bear.
I just stick myself onto bowl. Actually, I was a very gracious captain. When I captained, I found it very weird. I didn't bowl myself enough.
No, when you were Captain Bear, you did manage to drop catches off everyone else, but catch the ones off you.
Yes, I only dropped one catch. It was a sitter.
Yeah, but it was a special one.
Yeah,
It really was a special one.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, I agreed with. I don't know about last week. I'm not sure I'm with Jono on that one, but I'm certainly with him on this one because I don't. History says that you can't make 400 in the fourth innings. History says you don't often make 350 or over 300 in a fourth innings. So I do think that Root went on a little bit long on Sunday. I wondered whether he was just hoping for Burns to get to 100 and he was being sentimental in that way. But there's no room for sentimentalism in
Sentimentality.
Test cricket. And as Atherton showed at Sydney in 1994-5 with Graham Hick. I think they could have easily declared with a lead of 330. So I don't think they need another 60 runs on top of that. As I said, that this is the way that cricket is played these days. You finish off the other side. You don't offer them a carrot, a biscuit, a wine gum, a bottle of whiskey or anything. You just try to demoralise them by making them realise that there is nothing really that they can get out of this match. And I think that is why England went on as long as they did, more so than Burns being able to get 100.
Maybe it's a mentality thing. Maybe I just have a different mentality, and maybe that's why I'm not a professional sportsman. I don't know. Nothing to do with all the biscuits and takeaways, I'm sure. I best get through some of this social media, gents.
Absolutely.
While we've got a break.
We've got plenty of time now, yeah.
Oxymoronica. Morning, fellow cricket lovers. My new name for Broad, Superfast 499G Broadband. Nestle's has been on about the World Cup. It's called the Jules Rimet Trophy after the FIFA president. The Brazilian team won the tournament for the third time in 1970, allowing them to keep the trophy in perpetuity, as had been stipulated by Jules Rimet in 1930. That is why, obviously, the one time we won it was the old trophy, wasn't it? Which is now in Brazil.
Sorry, go on.
Go on.
Hendo.
No, it wasn't. I was just going to make a facetious point, so you carry on.
Messy Jess, things you don't expect to hear on Guerrilla Cricket number 43. That would make good sense, Bear. Yeah.
Yeah. Very rarely heard.
What are you on about?
If you were to go back through the archives, you might find that once, maybe.
Oh, please.
How many years?
Over 6 years. In fact, even going back to the Test match
Man,
sofa days.
I'm an oracle when it comes to cricket, man.
Mog says, be grateful you didn't have to watch Kindergarten Cop 2 featuring Dolph Lundgren.
That's
Dolph Lundgren?
That's awful, wouldn't it?
Oh, God. I'll have to seek that out now just to torture myself.
Can I just say hello to a few people on Hot Mic? Of course, Hot Mic is where we are new on Hot Mic, and it's very cool. So we've been joined by Andrew Veer, Amoeba, Mog has joined us there, Shahid, John Corbett, Nick, Neil, Richard Davison, Warren is on. He's always on here. He's a good man. Chris Harris, Max, and Spine, Sideburn, and Silvery Beam. So hello to you all on Hot Mic. I'm sure they'll tweet us in anyway, but they're watching us on Hot Mic. And if you want to go to Hot Mic, just download the app and use the code GC Radio. Follow us, and you can sync us to the TV. It's always on your phone when you go elsewhere. It's genius, basically, and it helps raise a little cash for us.
Yep. So get on to that. I think we've got a lot of tweets. Let's get through a few more of those.
Yeah, there's a brilliant tweet coming from Ben in Japan, who is in Kanagawa, saying, happily hearing you loud and clear in Kanagawa, Japan. He's retweeted something from Ian Bishop, which is showing Stuart Broad taking the time to have a long chat to 23-year-old West Indian fast bowler Keon Harding. On a morning that Broad stood on 499 Test wickets at the start of play. I think it just goes to show that I think Broad has grown out of being maybe a tempestuous younger man, and as he's kind of grown in age and stature, he seems to be a bit more chilled out, willing to help more people. He seems to have calmed down a little bit, maybe a little less fiery, but that's an amazing thing to see. You know, someone who probably often isn't often enough thought of as a legends bandied around too much, but if he gets into that 500 wicket bracket, he is a legend of the game. Let's make no mistake. Spending time with youngsters who are beginning to make the way, much as he will have done when he was there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes as a cricketer, we don't know what help Stuart Broad might have got from senior players around him at Nottinghamshire, Leicestershire, and England, and so it is good to see that knowledge being shared around, and across the boundaries of competition, really.
Leo Wicket Witch, how is Karate Kid a Christmas movie? Die Hard, Gremlins, or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang? I'm not sure about the last one. That's on some kind of website that I don't obviously are, but Karate Kid. Well, Leah, if you live in my house, you learn not to argue with my wife. And she said it's a Christmas movie, so therefore it's a Christmas movie.
There you go.
Martin Lawrence, I should have also said that as far as I'm aware, there is no television broadcast of the England versus Ireland series in Australia at this point. Oh. You are the home of Ireland cricket in Australia.
Wow, thank you very much. I'd like to say, Neil says hi, Bear, on Hot Mic, so hi, Neil.
I'm just wondering whether there's a Cricket Ireland are putting out a feed at all of that. They might be, I don't know if they've done any deal with with Sky about possibly covering those matches. It might be worth looking to see if you can get that on the Cricket Ireland website. But I don't know any other way of that you might get it in Australia. I can imagine that that's quite low down the list of sporting priorities in Oz. Though maybe it shouldn't be.
Muttley has come back to us. Speaking of stats for everything, some of the stats in inverted commas Crick Tracker come out with are hilarious. Things like the only cricketer who wears size 12 Nike shoes to hit the sticks.
Yeah, I think that's another great idea for tweeting, actually, isn't it? It's the most obscure and random stat that you can think of. And if you can think of it, we'll try and find it. I think that would be quite good fun.
Sally has been on. Speaking of # Christmas movies in July, my cousin persuaded me that we had to watch White Christmas as it's a classic. About 10 minutes in, we agreed that it was the song that was a classic and the film's crap.
Yeah, don't waste. Yeah, there's 3 minutes of your life you could lose there rather than an hour and a half. So I think yes, sounds perfectly sensible.
Motley's now going bonkers because he's only halfway through his first car and they've come off a rain. He's absolutely devastated. And Messi Jez has tweeted in the frozen photo of you. I don't know if you got a chance to see it yet, Hendo.
I have, and this worries me. This worries me about what people can do with your data. I mean, it's frightening, isn't it? I innocently cheer my own ability to name Matthew Hoggett as the leading wicket taker against Bangladesh, and suddenly I'm all over Twitter. I mean, that'll go viral without doubt.
Alexander Sutcliffe sounds exactly like my kind of man. Totally agree. Weak, negative captaincy in a game you have to win. 100% agree. Couldn't agree more. It doesn't matter if you draw, because the West Indies are going to retain the trophy.
When was the last time that you can? What's the last really generous declaration that you can think of?
Generous in terms of
Hansi Cronje.
what competitive declaration?
Well, there is that one, yeah. But then we know that was compelled by other
Means.
issues, really, wasn't it? I'm just trying to think of a really sporting declaration we've had. I think perhaps the one that Gilchrist gave England when Mark Butcher got his 170 at Headingley.
Yeah,
what year would that have been?
2003, I think, around there.
But didn't he still set 340 or something? It was 347 or something like that, wasn't it?
What, in 2017?
No, when Butcher got his... Well, it was over 300 that we got to win that, wasn't it?
It was over 300, yeah, but it was Butcher getting that big 170, and that was in 2003 with Gilchrist, and that was the one game that Gilchrist captained, wasn't it? That series,
yeah.
And he sort of offered it up, and that was probably England's only victory of that series.
Probably.
Yes, it was.
Probably.
The rest of it.
So we basically got a win out of on the basis that someone gave us a generous like declaration, but I can't think of many. I mean,
Middlesex and Yorkshire, last day of the county championship season in 2016, has come from Knuckle. That's a very good point.
Yeah, that was a decent one, but I'm thinking more at international level.
Oh right. Cricket that matters, you mean?
Yeah. Well, if you go back,
he's not listening. If Andy's listening, I'm dead.
You are. But if you wanted to go back to county cricket, then you'd surely just go back to when it was a 3-day tournament, because there were a lot of contrived declarations, weren't there, in order to get a result. And since there's been the 4-day game, I'm not sure that there have been that many generous declarations. That one, Middlesex and Yorkshire, which we were at, not commentating, but we went to the final day at Lords, and it was a fantastic afternoon and pretty good evening, as I recall.
The lads all coming down the stairs. Looks like they're going to start playing again. Obviously got a cup of Bovril, much like you've got, Endo, is it, by the looks of things?
Yeah.
I've got a story about and it'll take longer than we've got time for at the minute, but a story of declaration in league cricket where we were third, the team we were playing against were first, going miles up, and they and we both hated the team in second. So at the toss, I said to this fella, this other captain, I was like, right, why don't we, you get 240, declare, regardless, and then if we knock them off, great. If we don't, then fine. He declared, on having scored about 180 himself, on about 360. I then went out in the second innings. It was ladies' day as well, so my wife had about 4 bottles of Prosecco by this point. I walked out, got an 18-ball duck, pranged in front, LB left arm spinner around the wicket, cheers, off you go. And I walked back into the bar. My missus is stood on a stool, shadow batting the reverse sweep. I lost my mind. The entire day had just gone terribly.
But I have to say, your wife does sound like our sort of person.
Yeah. She's a right laugh.
The other thing I was going to say, are you prepared to name this team that you both hated?
They lived near a big hill that might sound like something made of cardboard.
Box.
So you might.
Really?
A box. Yeah, I know that place.
You can see their ground from the top of it.
I was going to say
the place where they got 360. They wouldn't have to be Valley End with it, with about 10-yard boundary down the left-hand side.
No, it starts in D and ends in G.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I've been there, played there in the past.
That's the place. The other day when I was talking about that arsehole who kept cutting me off a fucking length, no matter where I bowled, that was there.
Well, there you go. We're back. we're back with cricket, and we've got 1 minute of us before we change. Broad is coming in and bowls, and Brathwaite, is it, or is that Hope, in fact, gets in behind this one and defends it back to the bowler. Yes, at the end of this over, we shall have a 3-man change in which Gary, Mash, and Dave Brooke will... well, hopefully. I can't see them there, actually. I can't see them in the waiting room yet. Are they there?
Gary and Mash are here. Dave hasn't arrived yet.
Okay, well, it's Gary who's doing ball by ball. So we'll be able to get the West Indies view, for sure, from Mash and Dave when he eventually turns up.
I'll sit in for Dave until he arrives.
Broad in again to Brathwaite, and Brathwaite is in behind this, defending up the onside of the pitch towards mid-on, where Jofra Archer stoops to field. We have 1 ball remaining in this over that was halfway through when they went off for that brief shower. 35 for 2, so 25 runs added in reasonable comfort by these two. This morning, Brathwaite has moved to 15, Hope has moved to 16, and England just probing for that breakthrough. It's Broad then runs up past umpire Goff to Brathwaite. Brathwaite goes back to this one, short of a length. Defends into the covers. That is the end of the over. There'll be some final tweets from Jono, and then it will be time for Gary Naylor.
He's already here.
All right, Gary Naylor. Ralph the Wonderlarmer, morning Grillers, morning everyone. Huff the Bear is way louder than everyone else, which is normal, I guess, but playing havoc with my speakers.
I'm sorry, it's because I'm in the studio, so my sound's a lot fuller. All these guys have got their very squeezed sounds because it comes through Zoom, so unfortunately that is one thing that is a bit weird about this, but hey ho, sorry about that, peeps.
Martin Lawrence, just going back to when we were talking about Ireland and Australia, first test Ireland played for the first few days of the game. We didn't see the game live on TV, and cricket got depending on us at GC in Australia. They did get the last day live on TV though. Jessica, missing sports. Honestly, it would have been better if I'd gotten to do that pose more often. Spangley Sai, what ho chaps, that Atherton declaration to stop Hicks still getting a century still irks. I will now pass to the rest of the team who are coming on. I believe they're all in place. I think Gary's there, so...
Yes, and so is Jimmy Anderson, and he's worked into the leg side, backward of square, and very enthusiastic bit of fielding down there. I'm not sure you need to do that when you've got nearly 400s in hand. But it was Ollie Pope, and they're through for 2. West Indies 37 for 2. I just want to say something before I launch fully into ball by ball, and that's just a magnificent effort this is from the West Indies. Here they are on the last day of the series as Jimmy's in again and beats the bat, goes through to Joss Butler, very low, no run. Still fighting for the Wisden Trophy. They left, to misquote the Clash, their safe non-European home to come and live in a bubble for weeks on end. They're full of aches and pains. They've got England's 2 champion bowlers in almost perfect conditions for them, and they're still fighting. I mean, this is just a wonderful show by the West Indies. We cannot show them more gratitude than they deserve. Absolutely brilliant. As forward is Hope on 18 now, and just dribbles into the offside.
Your thoughts, Mash? What are you feeling?
What do you think I'm going to say, Bit?
It's in a bag. The bag's got a lot of fucking holes in it, though, Mash, is all I'm going to say. The water or whatever is in your bag is leaking out. Weather could intervene, but I don't think... I think there'll be enough play today for England to wrap this up.
Anderson in, very full and driven beautifully by Shea Hope, and will that give him the confidence he's lacked for so long in Test match cricket? That was the man who scored twin centuries at Headingley.
What I will say, one of these.
Sorry, Mash, go.
Yeah, what I will say is that these two have started confidently today. At their best, well, everyone knows, all English fans know for sure, West Indian fans, at their best, these two are the best batsmen in the lineup. So I'm not going to try and do any kind of glib, they could reenact Headingley here. No, not at all. But they could see out. In fact, let me not say that. I was about to say they'd see out the first half.
So here's Jimmy Anderson again in his Deer Hunter bandana, and that is defended by Shea Hope into the offside, and there is no run.
Key point. Sorry, Gary, can I say one more point?
Yes, of course, Mash.
So, on the close of play on, what day is it today? Sunday, I said that if it did rain yesterday, which it did all day, that would help the West Indies for day 5, because on Sunday they looked mentally shot, like they wanted to go home. A day off is the best thing that could have happened.
Completely agree with that, Mash.
Yeah, but I think 1 or 2 wickets go, and I think that feeling comes back, doesn't it? And we've got a whole day ahead, and they haven't got 10 wickets. They've got rid of a night watchman, true, but still.
Jimmy's in again. He's taken on the pads as Shea Hope there. It's getting slightly out of shape, going back when he should have been forward. But he gets through that over. It would be easy for me to sound patronising a bit in that paean of praise to Jason Holder and his team, but I absolutely do not mean it. There are so many ways in which this series could not have happened, and then if it did happen, the West Indies get rolled over by an England team who more than ever have home advantage here, but they have not. They're in there and they're fighting, and it's Test cricket has its detractors and it has worries about its future, but if the West Indies play like this, then Test cricket has a future, I promise you that.
It's always going to have a future. It's always going to have to. Can I say, Bruce Fox, he's on a hot mic, and he's managed to sink us in Hong Kong, which is fucking genius.
Yeah, so I was listening to Hot Mic on Sunday.
Yep.
First time. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
It is, isn't it? It's much more stable than most of the other things we do. So if you want us good and proper, go get a Hot Mic. GC Radio is the sign-up code you need. Anyway, Gary.
Stuart Broad is in, and that's cut by Brathwaite there. They're going to play positively, the West Indies. It was there for the shot. He played it, went all the way to the vacant third man area for one of these. It's important to say here that West Indies aren't hitting these boundaries because they genuinely believe they can overhaul a target of 399. They're doing it because they want to show that they're there to do more than just block the ball back, to make Joe Root think about his field, and to do, as the Australians always say, put pressure back on the bowler. So this is good work from these two. They've got to be careful not to chase too many wide ones, but that was certainly there for it. And he played it to Brathwaite. Just get forward a bit more. As he does get forward to this, and he punches that back, and I think it's half stopped by Stuart Broad and has followed through, and there is no run.
I'm glad you've mentioned that, though, Gary, about getting forward. The one criticism I would have of the West Indian batsmen is too many of them have been caught back in their crease. I understand why, and I think possibly people have been a bit overcritical of them, but I just feel in English conditions it's important you get forward. And if you get back in your crease too much, you're going to get pinned LBW, particularly with the attack that England have got.
Yeah.
So that is one criticism of their approach to batting.
Well, yeah, you can say that, but you always have to say that's good bowling as well, isn't it? The bowling on that length.
True.
It's just that length that confuses the batsman. Do I get forward? Do I get back? And you get pinned on the crease. So, and you don't have a lot of time to think about it.
I think you're right about that, Mash, but I've noticed one thing this morning.
That's out.
Brathwaite is out. LBW, will he review it? That was a beautiful ball by Stuart Broad. Again, the feet went nowhere. I'm afraid you're right, Mash. He does play on the back foot. He's had a lot of success by hanging back, watching the ball onto the bat, but that's a tough game to play when the ball zigs a little off the seam and zags a little in the air. Will it be 500 test match wickets for Stuart Broad? We're looking at it again. Oh, this is so out. Yes, it's hit him on the back pad. I think that is 500 for Stuart Broad. I think that is the first of the 8 wickets England need. Bye, bye, bye.
And you know what? That was Brathwaite.
Yeah.
And you know what? That was and Jimmy Anderson's 500th test wicket was Craig Brathwaite. As we found out
he's
earlier.
a millennial who likes the millennium, does Craig Brathwaite. Mash, you'd rather call that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't shut up, but...
Yeah. The bag's got another hole now.
The point I was going to make before that delivery is that Shai Hope, at least, I haven't seen Brathwaite, but Shai Hope is taking guard and a kind of Ben Stokes 12 to 18 inches outside his crease. So he's he's forcing himself forward, not least with his guard, in order to counter this movement and maybe just to mess up the lengths. But Broad has been absolutely sensational in this series. He's been pretty good for the last couple of years. I remember commentating on him in the West Indies about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was saying there's just no point in bowling like this because he was chugging in, bowling about 79, 80, 81 miles an hour. I remember saying there's county seamers all over the country could be doing this. What's the point of Broad if he's going to bowl like that? And he has reinvented his game, particularly in the last 2 years, bowling a fuller length, but also having a different attitude, an attitude about taking wickets rather than simply avoiding boundaries, an attitude that maybe the clock is running down and maybe he does want to explore his potential. But we've seen a different bowler, I think, these last 2 or 3 years from Broad. Amazing that he could reinvent himself, and he completely deserves the 500 wickets. There's a new batsman on strike, as yet unjingled, and Broad bowls on an absolute jaffer that beats the Trafford defensive bat.
It's this man.
Who's coming up next? And is he any good? Well, he's not bad. Shamar, you know him. Not really. He ain't bad. He ain't bad. Who? Shamar, you know him. Shamar Brooks.
See, the Brathwaite delivery there kept low, but we wouldn't have noticed it keeping low if he played forward, because the ball just would have been a standard forward defensive. But because he goes back, the ball travels that much further, doesn't get up and catches him in front of the stumps. Well, Brooks is going to play his shots. That was on middle, and he was very happy to punch it through the leg side. Ollie Pope back in the game again, retreats 3/4 of the way back to the square leg boundary, and they're through 4-3.
Well, a lot of their trigger movements, when you watch them closely, is to go back with their right foot. So I don't know. As Bear says, it's also, you could probably get away with that if it wasn't against a world-class attack.
Yeah, this is a particularly good attack, I think we've got, especially for English conditions.
Yeah, I think the dice are so loaded against the hang on your back foot and play late with Broad, with Anderson, with windy conditions, with a new ball, with a 5th-day pitch. I mean, it's an almost perfect combination to not play back. But that's Brathwaite's game in particular, and as you say, Mash, it's the game of quite a few of the West Indians, and it makes life tough here. All the more credit to them that here we are on the 5th day of the 3rd test, and they're still in with a shout. Broad in again, and this is a full flowing drive by Shea Hope. He's not going to hang around, is he? He's not going to just let them bowl. It was well stopped, extra cover. West Indies 48 for 3. Brooks has 3. Hope has 22.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, Hope has hung around for hundreds of balls for hardly anything, and now he's got 22 off 30 deliveries today.
I kind of understand why.
I do as well. He thought, fuck it, I'm just going to go for it.
Basically, his last innings, he tried to do the let me be really watchful, and if it means I have to take a long time to get a start, so be it. The problem is, if you take that approach, and again with this attack, there's always a ball with your name on it.
Yeah.
If you've taken 70 balls to get what you got in the first innings, which was maybe 18 or something, it looks like, well, that was a bit ponderous. So score when you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also I think Duncan Fletcher used to talk about positive defensive play, that even when you're playing with defensive bats, you can be positive. The feet are moving. All of your action is towards the ball. As Anderson is in, and he defends this on the back foot. There's Brooks, no run. And I think if you're looking for the cover drive, if you're looking for the square cut, then even your defensive shots look much more deliberate, look much more positive in their movements. So there's much going for that. I mean, I don't want to see him slicing one to gully now in an attempt to hit a 4 over point, but I do think if the ball's there, hit it.
Yeah.
Anderson has none for 18 off 7.1, but this morning's been about Stuart Broad, who has the 500 wickets with his lucky bandana being replaced there. This ball is defended by Brooks in to the point area, and there is no run.
They get through some tweets. Leah says, fun Dolph facts. I don't know if you lot were talking about Dolph Lundgren or something. He holds an MA in chemistry and was in a 007 movie with Grace Jones, his partner at the time.
Yeah, that was A View to a Kill. That was a particularly poor one.
Competition's quite fierce in that category.
Well, yeah, but that was Timothy Dalton era. That was bad. Bad Bond, that was.
Is there such a thing as a bad Bond movie?
Yeah.
Jimmy's in, and this is defended from deep in the crease by Shamar Brooks. I mean, that's a kind of interesting shot there, Mash, because that was a forward defensive, but because his trigger movement was back, he was still playing it from the crease. So even though it's a forward defensive, the ball has travelled almost its maximum distance, and I don't think that helps, and perhaps that's why Shai Hope is taking guard well outside his crease to limit that. If I'm a bowler, and I was a bowler, I used to love it when batsmen did that. As this ball is defended again pretty much from the crease, because I'd think, that's given me just that little extra time to move the ball towards the edge of the bat. It's 48 for 3 the Windies.
Well, when you speak to the West Indies batsmen, a lot of them have been saying throughout the tour it's important for us to play the ball late, but maybe they're overcompensating for that by staying as far back in their crease as they possibly can. I don't know. I'm just saying that they always talk about playing the ball late in England. So
yeah, I think you can play the ball late, as Anderson is in and beats the proffered bat by Brooks there with an absolute jaffer that's jagged away off the seam. But I think what you've got to do is watch the ball all the way onto the bat, and it's quite demanding, and it's harder than it sounds to watch the ball all the way onto the bat. The problem is when you go back, having made up your mind where the ball's going to be, because in England, certainly against Anderson and Broad, the ball often isn't where you expect it to be, and therefore you have to make those tiny adjustments, sometimes only a matter of millimetres, but it's the difference between the outside edge of the bat and the middle of the bat, as this ball is defended again off the back foot by Brooks. There is no run. It's the end of the 15th over. West Indies are 48 for 3.
Tweets. Jessica says, settling in for has become a nightly tradition for me. Football Manager and guerrilla cricket. Love that tradition. I'm a football manager. Tragic case. Nestler says, headline of the day: former Freemason 51 found drunken naked inside a huge pipe organ with a toy gun and a remote control police car. Says he got lost while trying to hand out cheeseburgers to the homeless.
What the fuck? Where the hell's that from, Nestlers?
Hats off for getting the words organ and pipes in that one as well. So, yes. Stuart Broad, buoyed by his 500th wicket. We might go on a little about this perhaps in one of the breaks. There may well be breaks to come, but not many seam bowlers get 500 wickets, so it really is quite an achievement. And this is taking the inside portion, I think, of Hope's bat. Ball again jagged into him, but because he was that little bit forward, I think he had chance to get enough bat on it before it went through him, and he gets himself off strike with a single.
So I think if England get another 2 before lunch, when the 6th wicket goes down, it's collapso time.
He's lost.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, some of us remember Danny Morrison batting for 2 hours, I think, at Old Trafford. And if Danny Morrison can bat 2 hours at Old Trafford, then
that's true.
I think I can. Just 2 slips and a gully. Man with 500 Test wickets. Man on 3 on strike. The ball moving around. No short leg. Somebody tell me what that's all about.
I don't know. I really don't.
I mean, sometimes you have no slips, and you have the men sort of in front, the forward umbrella rather than the backward umbrella. But if they think the ball's going to first or second slip, surely it's also going to third or fourth slip.
Well, yeah, especially with this many runs on a board, you think you'd have a third slip.
It's ludicrous, as Broad again beats the bat, and it goes through to Joss Butler. He's beaten the bat plenty of times here. If one goes through third slip here, I may bring out the Muppets.
I think Mash has had problems with his interweb, so he has rebooting. Joys of Zoom, eh?
So, no short leg. There is a short mid-wicket. There's no leg slip, which is definitely something I would have when they're hanging back as far as this. I just cannot understand modern captaincy's field placing. The man has 3. England have 350 runs in the bank. This is defended to short mid-wicket, and there is no run. I'd have a silly mid-off in there as well. I might even have all 10 men around the bat, just to show, first of all, how many runs we've got, and secondly, how hostile an environment this can be with a man with 500 test wickets in his bag.
Yeah,
I just cannot fathom it. There's one of the other positions I would have would be a fly slip come short third man, and that's not in either. Anyway, this is beautifully played by Shamar Brooks. He had wide half volley. He just leant into it, didn't try and hit it too hard, but just steered it back with a point for one of these.
2 + 2 is no number. 2 + 2 is no number.
but I think you only really want a fly slip if you're bunging it in short. I mean, it's a bit of a waste of a position unless you're going to bowl to that field. I think you've got to show him that you might be bowling it short, because again it just pushes him back. He's already likely to stay back, but the odd one, and then the eyes might light up. I mean, sometimes field placings aren't always about where you think the ball's going to go. It's to make the batsman think it's where you're going to bowl. Broad's in again, and a withdrawn bat from Shamar Brooks, and it goes through to Joss Butler. The ball certainly going through at variable heights today. You'd expect that of a 5th-day pitch. It's been a pretty good wicket, this, I think. Yeah.
A bit in it for everyone.
Absolutely.
I'd like slightly more pace for an ideal wicket, but I probably would have said that from every cricket pitch I've seen in England for 40 years. So.
Well, yeah, there aren't that many really quick wickets in England, are there? Let's be honest.
No, we did serve one up in 1976 at the Oval, though. I wonder what the West Indies attack, whether it was suited to a quick wicket that day. Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah.
That's right. As Broad's in, and this is clipped down to long leg. Completely redundant field placing, if you ask me. And they're through for a single. Why not let that go for 4? Have that man up catching. It's beyond me. It's the end of the over. West Indies 3 down.
Has Best bowled an over in this game yet?
Nope.
Does make you wonder, doesn't it?
Mash is back.
Yeah, he is back. Is he back? Are you frozen, Mash, or are you there?
Oh, he's frozen.
You're frozen again.
Gotta let it go, and then reboot it.
Oh, he's done that already. It's a problem with the bloody internet, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the one problem with doing Zoom productions.
Yeah. Well, Fat Gary's band is still working, or Fat Gary's broadband. God, I should have got that right, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
My pun there on Zoom. The vultures, they often remind me of the vultures in Bedknobs and Broomsticks. If you recall, the stretcher bearers in the famous football match were vultures, and the ground staff always look a little like vultures hovering around the hover as the grey skies of Manchester do the grey skies trick. And Jimmy Anderson, having not had much success, gives way to a new bowler. And he's straight on the line and length, and this is one of those shots that goes through a gap in the slips cord, and just a proffered outside edge of a bat to a loosener. And it was Rory Burns diving, as he often does at gully, but it was to his left hand, and it went through to the vacant third man for one of these.
And that went through. They did have a third slip in there as well, Gary.
Yeah, they should have had a 4th slip. And I know that there's the kind of Botham and Warne, they want 13 men. But my approach with this is you have all the slips, the short leg and the leg slip as Wokes is in again, and this is just pushed into the leg side. And then you see how many fielders you've got left to plug the gaps. Because it's the reverse of what you usually look for, which is to say, we need a short mid-wicket, we need a deep square leg, we need a long leg, all of this kind of stuff. Now, we can afford 2 slips, we can afford 3 slips. When you're in a situation like this, it's the other way round. You decide where your attacking fielders are going to go, plug all of those gaps, and then decide where your defensive fielders are going to go.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing the Botham thing here. I think the priority is to have the cordon in there. That's a beautiful ball by Wokes, who got that to lift off a length, but he dropped the hands to Shamar Brooks and let it go through to Butler. I mean, a perfect example of that was long leg in the previous over. There is absolutely no need for a long leg, so that long leg could be the 3rd or 4th slip.
Yeah, true. You could just let that go for 4. But I mean, as a bowler, you never want it. You think, fuck it. I'll normally have a man down there, and look at my figures.
Yeah,
just
but I want wickets.
Yeah,
Broad's
true.
got 500, not by saving 4s at long leg, but by taking wickets in the slips.
Oh,
as this is hit high and handsomely by Shamar Brooks, and it's dropped into the outfield where the man comes round from long leg, who was a rather cold-looking Jofra Archer in his long sleeve, sleeveless and long sleeve jumper, and he returns the ball. West Indies go to 60 for 3.
Well, he'll soon get a chance to warm up. I'll be wagering, Gary.
Yeah, it was a front foot kind of hook, but he didn't middle it, and it dropped into the open space. And again, if you're going to bowl a bouncer, you've just got to accept that they're going to drop into the open space. You certainly don't want people out there instead of in the slips, as this is clipped a short ball into the rib cage, and it just goes to the man at short mid wicket. And
I'd argue if your strategy is to bowl a short on them, you have 2 men out and hook, don't you?
No. What you do is you invite them to hook. So you maybe have 1 man or maybe no men there, and you're looking for the edge. You're looking for the one that skies, something like that. In this position, you want them playing as many attacking shots as possible, as this ball is punched back down the ground, and Wokes does the fielding off his own bowling. It's the end of the over. West Indies are 60 for 3. They need 339 off about 75 overs or whatever's left in the day, so that's not a factor. So you can let them hit the boundaries if they want to. The more attacking shots, the more likely you're going to get bowled through the gate, steepling top edge. All of those things are in play. 3 for 80 is a lot better today than 1 for 60.
Yeah, true. I still think there's plenty of time and they'll get through it. So I'm not as I don't mind this too much. I think you can try and plug too many gaps. I think 3 slips is. I mean, I didn't want the 2. I think 3 is fine.
Yeah, we have some stats from the green room whilst we're lining up a jingle. Broad has 500 wickets in 140 tests at an average of 28. From 2009 to the end of 2017, he had 398 wickets in 113 tests at 29. From 2018 until now, so that's the last 2 years or so, 102 wickets in 27 tests at 23.69. This ball was punched to mid-off, and there is no run. Mash, if you're back, you'll be able to get through some tweets, I hope, for us.
Yeah, apologies for that, guys. Don't know what went on there, but had to reboot and everything. But Michael in USA says, I've just Googled Nestler's story. The Freemason story is from Brisbane. Woy Pom says, Broad stats are not that much behind Jimmy's, but Jimmy gets all the plaudits. I'll continue after this ball.
The as yet unjingled bowler is wide of off stump, and there is no run.
Carry on with tweets, Mash.
Okay, try to continue. So Broad stats are not that much behind Jimmy's, but Jimmy gets all the plaudits. I'd like to see their stats over the last 2 years, because Broad seems to have got better in the last 2 years.
Well, we gave that, and they were very much McGrathian figures. 100, I'll give you the last 2 years again. It's 102 wickets in 27 tests at 23.69, and that is pretty much by McGrath. As Jofra's in way wide of off stump, and there's a Smithian leave by Shai Hope.
Brathwaite has been, Andrew Sampson says that Brathwaite has been a milestone wicket 3 times. Trent Bolt's 200th, Jimmy Anderson's 500th, and Stuart Broad's 500th.
And I hope we can get the jingle in there.
I shall give it a shot now. Dave B has decided to finally join us.
Break your helmet, break your heart. Hotter than lava, cooler than Bogart. In your face, at your stumps, on your toes, on your mum.
A little short was Jofra Archer there, and he was just punched off the back foot square on the offside by Shai Hope, who goes to 27, and I have to say Shai Hope has batted beautifully this morning.
It's too wide, isn't it? This whole over's been too wide.
Yeah, he's finding his range. You know, he's had a day off as well yesterday, and he's warming into his work, and that's a pretty good ball, very full on off stump and slightly on the walk. Hope hits it to mid-off, and Jimmy Anderson does the fielding.
More tweet smash, or are we up to date?
We're up to date, but I just wanted to say that Shai Hope has just reached his highest score of the series on the final day of the series. Excellent. That should give him another 3 years.
This might give him another 3 years, though, because you cannot play the extra cover drive any better than that. It was full. It was a shot for the ball, but picture postcard beauty in that balance there from Shai Hope, and it went all the way to the fence.
I'm just going to say, Dave, if you're listening, which I know you're now here, you can drop in anytime you like, and I shall disappear because you're supposed to be here for me. That was a lovely shot, wasn't it, by Shai?
It was. We'll try and get through your tweets if Nash's internet can stand the strain.
Yes, Victor Vincent Vicky is over on Crit Tracker. It's evening wherever he is, and he's got some chicken, and he's suitably excited about what's going on. As if Gould says, without underestimating anyone, I wish West Indies could be strong to play for the chase. That would have been so exciting. Test matches are lovely.
Well, I think we can enjoy the prospect of a side battling for the trophy without necessarily battling for the win here. As Wokes is in, he's over the wicket right-handed to Shamar Brooks, who rocks back to a ball that it was the right decision to go back to, and just eases it into the leg side, and they're through for 2. I've been impressed that the West Indies, they haven't tried to hit the ball too hard this morning. Sometimes when there's lots of boundaries on offer, batsmen can try and hit the ball too hard, but they haven't. They've been happy to accept their 1s and 2s along with some absolutely gorgeous driving.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying earlier on, Gary. I think it's about not getting caught in the... 1 second.
As this is leg side, and Wokes has been 2 leg side in this innings, and he's just whipped off the hips down to the man at square leg, and through for a single.
This has probably been, I'll come back to that point in a minute, but it's probably been said before, but Shamar Brooks reminds me of my favourite West Indian cricketer of all time, which is Carl Hooper.
Super Hoops!
Super Hoops, everyone, look, Carl Hooper was great. I watched, I came back yesterday afternoon, I went home for a couple of hours and came back, and they had that Viv Richards series going on Sky, and he was so cool, Viv, man.
As Wokes is in, this is hit high in the air from outside off stump. Is there anyone underneath that? There is! It's the man of the moment, Stuart Broad. Well, Shai Hope, having looked absolutely fantastic, has rather given it away by doing exactly what I said he wasn't doing. He tried to hit the ball too hard. He got a steepling top edge into the grey Manchester skies, and oh, Shai, please.
That was not an easy catch in this wind. But did you see how it came back? It was coming down like a banana. That's a good catch. I thought I wouldn't want to be under that. That's a shame. That doesn't keep him in the side, does it,
bananas
Mash?
are a great export of the Caribbean, but unfortunately, it was not suited to the Manchester skies. There, Mash, are you gonna be extremely critical or merely critical of Shy Hope there?
What on earth? Like, after not playing a loose shot for the whole innings, he takes that on, having left everything thus far in that kind of quadrant. Why?
I mean, I've praised West Indies for playing positive strokes, but he was attempting to fetch it from well outside off stump, not just a little outside off stump. And I don't mind the positive intent, but if you're going to play the positive shot to that, surely it's the square cut or the leave, live to fight another day. But to attempt to fetch it to mid-wicket, the bat twisted slightly in the hand. He was trying to hit it so hard. It was a shot poor in conception and in execution, and a smiling Kareem Abdul-Jabbar comes to the crease.
Ah, yes. Here's another one. Another one to get through. It's this man.
Austin Chase, and what do you get? Cricketer, a village in Somerset. I did some research and well was done. So now that he's a man, that son of a gun.
Well, a Ninja Dutters tweeted in saying 2 of the most beautiful drives of the match have just been hit by Shahal, a man who has struggled through the series, loving it. And if ever a tweet summed up, that is it.
Yeah.
Ah, dear. Here's Wokes is in again to Shamar Brooks. I think they crossed while the ball was in the air. They might have run 3 actually while the ball was in the air, but the new batsman is as yet at the non-striker's end. The camera's homing in on Broad there, and they would have enjoyed that. I think the camera staff had he dropped it, and indeed there was a big sigh of relief when Broad held on to that delivery. But it is indeed Shamar Brooks who's on strike, and he's on 17. He just lets this go through to Josh Butler. The sun is out, and I think the sun is shining on England's prospects. There, you were very bullish, belying your nickname.
I've watched a lot of cricket over the last few years, Gary. I've seen this happen an awful lot of time. A day is an awful long time. This West Indies side looked tired. Nothing against though. I agree with every sentiment you had earlier in the day. But I think England have got a stronger side,
Yeah, you were definitely buying England shares in a bull market as this is flicked off the pads. Woke's still struggling a little with his line, and it goes down to long leg, and they're through for a single. We should point out that Chris Wokes has now taken the possibility of all 10 for Stuart Broad out of the equation. Jim Laker's record remains intact.
But I mean, we've touched on this, and Mash has said it, and Dave has said it. The point is that England have 6 or 7 good bowlers that they've decided that they are going to rotate. They haven't rotated the batsmen, and I think that's fair enough. People are in order. But the West Indies have either refused to do it or don't think their second stringers are strong enough. And the added fact that I said this morning is actually that in England, because of that, to a certain degree, England's batsmen have had the whole series to look at the same bowlers over and over and over again, whereas West Indies batsmen have to chop and change each test to decide who's bowling and figure out their plans to them.
Joffre's in, and an attempted leave there by Shamar Brooks, and it just takes the bottom edge of the bat and goes down to the untenanted third man boundary for a fortunate one of these.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And if people wonder why Steve Smith has that affectation when he leaves the ball with the hands going high, that's one of the reasons, because it does happen in Test cricket that you attempt to leave the ball, it gets up a little bit more, and there's a bottom edge, and we've all seen players cut, particularly by the wicketkeeper, sometimes first slip off the kind of bottom part of the bat. Just 2 slips in a gully for Jofra Archer, and no short leg, which is absurd as the ball goes through to Josh Butler, and there is no run. I mean, it's almost telling the batsman you're not going to get a bouncer. I don't understand it. But there we go.
I think at the end of the day we're due a change, and it should be Hendo. Dave B is finally going to make it here. Knackle's going to take over for me once I've initiated the change.
I'll run through some tweets in the meantime. Muttley seems to be putting together some kind of Lego car He seems to have done a Ferrari.
As Archer's in, and this is short outside the off stump, no run.
Roy Pom says Shea Hope, no Hope, correct. Dave Sarah says, is that the end of Hope's run? Maybe a further run as test keeper number 7. Nope, Dave, that's it. It's over for him now. Go and play for some first class cricket. We're done with you. We're done with you, Shea Hope. We're done. I'm speaking on behalf of everyone in the Caribbean. Go take a rest now. We're done.
And if he goes and gets stacks and stacks of runs and gets back in,
then he can come back in. We're fine with that.
Cool.
Archer's in again and goes back there and almost slips and slides onto his stumps to Shamar Brooks there, but the fielder's at short mid wicket and there is no run.
Nestlers and Derek Willis both say that shot was brainless from Shea Hope. Hard to disagree. You wouldn't even play that shot in a 2020 game. I'm not convinced you would. It'd be too wide to take on.
Yeah, you'd probably try and uppercut it over to the vacant third man area. I mean, it's for the shots that could conceivably be played to the ball, that was the worst one. As this is short, it is the bouncer, and Brooks was underneath it, goes through to the keeper. So you're expecting 12th century Pope Nicholas Puran to take Shai Hope's place?
No, I'm not. I think Puran should be added to the test squad sooner rather than later, but I am expecting them to realise that Darren Bravo is one of the most experienced test players in the region. And has the best test average in the region, and I'm expecting them to tell him to come and play number 3. That's what I would do if I was a selector.
Well, if
he opted out of the tour.
Exactly, I was going to say if he'd have been on the tour, he'd have been on the side as well, wouldn't he? You know.
Archer's on a line, on a length, and he's met with a straight-ish bat by Shamar Brooks. It's the end of the over. There are 20 of those gone. West Indies are 76 for 4. Brooks has 22. Chase is yet to get off the mark, and you have some new commentators.
Indeed, I'll say goodbye.
Thank you very much, Gary. My last 40 minutes of the test. Can I clean up the West Indies middle order and tail? Who can tell? Only 40 minutes in which to do that. For those of you who voted in our poll and thought that it could be over by lunch. 76 for 4. I was just getting ready, watching those lovely drives that Shea Hope played. I was just getting ready to see exactly when his last 50 was, which was, of course, Bridgetown, 2019, January. And 7 tests ago, but of course it was all rendered pointless, my research, because he played a terrible shot and he'd been batting so well. That's the quandary, isn't it?
It's pretty inexplicable,
so many of these,
wasn't it?
West Indies batsmen look good and then don't go on. I'm sure we've said that about English batsmen as well, like Ian Bell, James Vince, whatever. Wokes will continue. I'm joined by Knackle and David Brooke.
Morning.
Yeah, he's back.
Well, afternoon now.
Morning, everyone.
Indeed.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, afternoon. Wokes into Roston Chase, who opens the face really nicely, looking for a single through the covers, but moving round at backward point is Dominic Bess, and there is no run.
Hendo, can I just correct what I said just now?
You can. I didn't hear you made a mistake, but tell me what you did.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon. Okay.
It feels like the morning session, doesn't it?
It does. It's the morning session. I think we can go with that till 1 o'clock. 2 slips of gully, backward point, extra cover. As the camera swoops round, exposes the extra cover, who's quite tight on the single. He's in again, down the leg side, flicked through square leg. It's going to be a long chase for someone. Ultimately, the man coming round from long leg, who is Jofra Archer. They get back for a second. Chase is off the mark, and the West Indies move to 78 for 4. Well, tell us what's your outlook for the day, Dave? Can you see any way that West Indies can last 2 more sessions after this?
The elements could intervene, I guess. One can't be surprised by the events of the morning because they followed the same pattern as the rest of the series. In the top order has failed, and Brathwaite and Hope have failed again. I thought Gary got it absolutely right with Brathwaite's dismissal. You know, it should have been on the front foot. Yes, you can say it kept low, which it did, but what was he doing hanging on the back foot?
It's a good point, as this is nicely played by Roston Chase into the offside, slowly enough for them to come through for a reasonably comfortable single.
Sorry,
Hendo. I was just saying that the attention has all been on Shea Hope and will he deliver in one last chance. But actually, Brathwaite's got a lot of experience. He's scored so many first-class runs. I think 10,000 first-class runs, and he's been the disappointment. Because he's supposed to be the ballast, and he looked like he'd returned to form in the first test, but that was a very disappointing dismissal.
Onto the front foot goes Brooks, plays a ball probing middle and off on a good length straight back to the bowler. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know what you can do about it. Brathwaite has developed this technique where he just shuffles, isn't it? Really, in defence, he doesn't get forward. He doesn't really get back.
It was a full ball, wasn't it? It was a foolish.
We were talking in the first stint about how he's trying to bat outside of his crease for a couple of years, and it didn't work because he ended up pushing at balls that he shouldn't have been playing at.
This is neatly played by Shamar Brooks, who continues to impress me. He's moved quickly on to 22 from 32 deliveries, but this one picks out Ollie Pope at backward square leg, and there is no run.
And now he's reverted back to what had got him runs before that, which is staying back in the crease, not really moving too much, and it does make him vulnerable to those dismissals. He's batted quite well in this series, but he's still someone who's had a horrible couple of years.
He always looks like someone who can get out. That's the problem. Even when he gets comfortable, this is a drive by Brooks, and he's got an inside edge. And of course, the commentator's curse comes back to haunt him. And I think he's got out that way before, hasn't he? Did he get out that way in the first innings? Inside edge. It's Wokes who's taken another wicket. He's got 2 now, and the West Indies are subsiding. They're 79 for 5. Yeah, ball came back in from Wokes. Tried to force off the back foot, but got a thin inside edge. Comfortable catch for Jos Buttler. And now Shamar Brooks has gone for just 22. And, there really is no way back here for the West Indies, I'm afraid.
You're absolutely right, Hendo. It was James Anderson who dismissed Shamar Brooks off an inside edge. A slightly different type of shot, less forceful shot. There was an inside edge onto the thigh in the first inning. So... we've talked about Joe Denley's vulnerability on the inside edge. Maybe Shamar Brooks is another one of those.
Yeah, it's a shame. Every time I've watched him, I've liked the look of him. He seems to have that little bit longer to play than most of the other West Indies batsmen. But it's amazing. You can discover one fault and it keeps getting you out. And that's happened again for him very sadly.
That's Test match cricket. And England have shown... they've learned a lot during the course of the series, haven't they, about the opposition, and they've come back with plans. Yeah. I've seen no value add, from the West Indies coaching staff. I can't see how anything has changed or developed over the course of the series. That's the disappointing thing. From starting off well, errors haven't been corrected, and that's the job of the coaching team, isn't it? And I do feel that this hold of the Barbados has on the top orders is probably well and truly broken now, and that we'll start to see the end of the closed shop that has kept a lot of other people out of the team for a long time. It's been a very difficult side to get into, and there'll be a few places opening up now, I think.
Well, it's Jermaine Blackwood coming to the crease. He's got a jingle that goes like this. It's the start of a new over, however, and the first ball from Jofra Archer is driven by Roston Chase up to mid-off, and there is no run.
I just want to talk about Archer. Archer's being asked to bowl into the wind.
Yes, I saw that. He's still bowling like the wind, despite bowling into it.
Yes,
I would have to say.
Yeah, he's bowling in the high 80s, maybe looking for a little bit of swing.
Possibly. Here he is again, bowls down the leg side. Roston Chase tries to follow it, but make no contact. Through to the keeper it goes. And
at Sussex,
no run.
At Sussex, Archer has often bowled into the wind. He's not seen as a pace-only bowler at first-class levels. Only when he hit Polak Steve Smith with that bouncer that all the attention's been on the speed. But first-class level, he swings and moves the ball and hasn't always relied on pace.
He also gets some movement off the seam into the right-hander.
This one is flicked away by Roston Chase down to long leg. Yeah, I mean, I think when I got my early views of Jofra Archer, what struck me about him, not the blinding pace, but the length that he manages to get the ball to rear off. That is his real talent, as far as I'm concerned. And if you can actually do that occasionally at 90 miles an hour or plus, then it makes it very difficult for batsmen.
Even if you do it at 85, it's difficult.
Exactly. If you do it at 90 plus, it becomes that much more difficult. And of course, he's quite skillful. He gets very close to the stumps. That wicket-to-wicket delivery that we see from so many successful bowlers. This is a way down the leg side. Jermaine Blackwood tries to make contact with this one, but doesn't. And again, it goes through to Butler. There is,
Hendo, just saying that. That Jofra's presence here, is almost emphasising that the West Indies issue is often one of selection and talent development, rather than the talent itself. There's Jofra, a man who evaded the West Indies selectors, and that's why he's playing for England, and a lot of others have evaded them too.
He's in again, bowls to Blackwood. Blackwood leaves us. It's full of ball outside the off stump. Through the keeper it goes. Again, no run.
Left out of the West Indies under-19 World Cup squad by the current West Indies assistant coach, Roddy Astwick, although they are apparently very close.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're talking about the same mistakes being made, but I've got the feeling that West Indies just didn't manage to build on the confidence they should have taken from winning the first test. And I think the crucial day of this series, if we go back, as Archer comes in, bowls onto the back foot, goes Blackwood. He's trying to take a quick single up to mid-on and comfortably does it in the end. Was probably the first day of the second test, where England managed to get to 207 for 3. It was a tough watch. It was hard going, but they really had to concentrate, the England batsmen. We had Dominic Sibley doing what he does, getting stuck in. Ben Stokes doing exactly the same. And I think that's where they lost it. They had put England into bat, and with a bit more luck, if things had gone their way, and England hadn't batted quite so well, they would have probably had England 6 down on that first day. As it was 207 for 3, and then we know what Ben Stokes did the next day. So I think that's where England snatched back the momentum.
Yeah, all credit to England that Gabriel was already off the field at that point.
Yeah, fair enough.
What a few
81
tweets here, Henry.
Yeah, we'll go for those. Sorry, I forgot about them. 81 for 5.
Armchair Cricket Podcast says no hope. No, that's it for a while in West Indies whites for him, isn't it? It'll have to be Chase and Holder for the rest of the day.
In comes Wokes, bowls to Blackwood. He goes up onto his toes and plays a nice forcing shot through the covers. It's chased by Dominic Sibley, and they get back for a comfortable 2. West Indies move to 83 for 5. More tweets.
Leah Wicked Witch, hello Leah, says Smith has 3 strange affectations, as Steve Smith, because he was assembled in an alien lab by extraterrestrial who only had a vague description of cricket to inform their design choices. That would explain it. Absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Dave Wood says, okay, I entered the GPL, someone needs to after all, and India has been in touch.
As Wokes bowls again to Blackwood, who defends once more on the back foot to a ball just back of a length, plays it straight back to Wokes. There is no run.
And India has been in touch again to say that has to be the first case of commentator's curse when the commentator is not on air. Yeah, you put the mockers on hope, didn't you, and India? And Nestle said, sorry, I love the West Indies, but this is very poor. Well, Nestle, don't give up yet. In the bulk of the runs have come from people who aren't yet out. The majority of the runs in West Indies have come from Blackwood, Hope, Chase and Holder. Blackwood, Chase and Holder.
Blackwood goes back to this defends firmly, solidly to backward point where Dominic best fields.
And before this series, Dowrich.
And Dowrich, yeah, thank you. He's been one of the most successful batsmen in the last couple of years.
Do we know what the state of his lip is? Have we heard anything about it?
He's fit to bat, yeah, he's okay to bat, yeah.
The state of his lip is, I think, fat.
Yeah.
He's been past fit to bat.
Did he have stitches? I didn't read anything about him having stitches. In comes Wokes again. Bowl's full, driven straight back at him. Firmly by Blackwood, but straight into the hands of the bowler in his follow-through. And there is no run.
Well, look, I'm going to put the curse on Hendo. I may as well do it now. Blackwood has been one of the real positives for West Indies in this series.
He has, and I still think that...
90-odd.
Yeah, I know he got 90 and I know he got a 50 and he is a good player and I've always rated him and I was glad to see him back in the squad, back in the side. But I'm a little bit worried about the way he plays that drive. He's a little bit uppish as he plays the drive and I think he's fallen to a couple of catches at extra cover. and the ball that bowled him in the first innings, it struck me that he wasn't transferring the weight very well into the front leg. This is played into the onside, and there is no run.
Yeah, he's one of these guys who sort of, even when he cover drives almost off the back foot.
He's standing up, isn't he? It's almost as if he's inviting the bottom hand to come through a little bit early, or something like that, or he's trying to hit it perhaps too hard, when he really should just be relying more on timing. Wokes in to complete the over. He's onto the back foot, plays that comfortably enough up to mid-on, and that is it. 23 overs bowled. West Indies have moved on to 83 for 5.
I should just say, by the way, on the GPL, we have had 3 entries. Oscar Mack 103, Dave Emrys, who must be Dave Wood, 131, Ombre Nuevo 157. It will close at lunch, or when the next West Indian wicket falls, whichever happens first.
Well, it could be quite close, couldn't it? We're 25 minutes from lunch now. Bit of a build-up of cloud, but there is blue sky as well above Old Trafford.
Yeah, the fact that this morning's been slightly on and off hasn't helped the West Indies.
Well, I didn't think it would, yeah. I mean, when they went off the first time, I think I made that point. They were actually playing quite well and quite comfortably, and whether that just interrupted their concentration, their feel, who can say? Certainly seemed to have done so in some respects for Shai Hope. Shai Hope plays good shots and then gets out. He's another of those players. Onto the back foot goes Roston Chase. Defends this one that's rising towards his breastbone, down into the ground. There is no run.
I mentioned with Brathwaite that sort of reversion that you get when somebody's out of form. And I think with Hope, actually, it might also be a sense of, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down my way. He is quite a fluent player. He doesn't play very differently in Test match and one-day international cricket. And he was batting absolutely beautifully until that inexplicable swipe.
Man's gone back at deep square leg, about 15 yards in from the boundary. This is a good length ball, which is defended off the back foot into the covers by Chase, and there is no run.
So,
More tweets.
He keeps on the playing the shots because he doesn't necessarily believe that he's going to be out there long enough to do anything else.
Dr. Dan has sent us a very, very nice sketch of Stuart Broad celebrating his 500th wicket. What a momentous event!
Absolutely. There were some great stats coming through. That you probably mentioned them. All this comes back into Chase, who plays it off the back foot, doesn't seem to quite know where it's gone. It has actually run away behind square leg. Joss Butler goes to field it because there's no one closer than he, and they get through for 184 for 5. Yeah, there were some stats earlier about various batsmen being victims of landmark bowling figures, wasn't there? I think when someone got 100 wickets, when someone got 200 wickets. I think it was the third time Craig Brathwaite had been involved in something like that. Now, there's another squall has come in, and this time England are rather bolting for the safety of the dressing room, although Joe Root isn't. He's standing out there. He says, this will be gone over in no time at all. Surely we don't need to get the covers on, but that seems to be what is happening. As an explanation to Joe Root from umpire.
That's the reserve umpire David Milnes, I think.
That's David Milnes. Okay. So Rayner stopped play again for the third time this morning, with West Indies on 84 for 5. The target is 399. They ain't going to get that. It's just a case of England taking 5 more wickets. On comes the hovercraft from square leg, and it is actually raining quite hard, I think, and with that wind as well, it's probably biting into your skin as you're running around out there.
We saw umpire Michael Gough almost bent double running into the wind.
Yes indeed. So they go into the dressing room for the time being, and we'll catch up with some more tweets.
Yes, indeed. Just to say, sorry, just caught me out there, and I'll just putting my money on the draw. No, 2 reasons for that: the rain, and also the fact that the most successful West Indies batsmen are not yet out. It's the ones who've been failing who are out. Session Brooks. Yeah, 8. That's 7-1 on 7-1 against the draw. Still seems quite generous to me, given the Manchester weather. Bajans to the wall, says Joseph Aparicio. Thank you, Joseph, for that. The Bajans are up against it. Mog says, I'll say it again, Holder owes us a ton. He said so himself. Well, that's true. He did. Dave Sarah says, are there any other younger West Indies players who might be considering a move to England? Well, that's an interesting question, Dave. I mean, it's usually the ones at sixth form level who get poached, because they, there is the scholarship that was set up by Lord Gavron. Yes, the Gavron which has been continued by his widow, and the Gavron scholarship usually brings over 1 or 2 youngsters into sixth forms every year. There was we had Shea Hope, of course, who came over on that at Bede School. So they won't necessarily be names of players that we'd have heard of, but there is a little talent drain there. I mean, Kieran Powell was sixth form at Millfield. Of course, he did work his way back into. He actually stayed with West Indies, and hopefully he'll be back in the side before too long. And then at the other end of the market, of course, there is the Kolpak. Miguel Cummins opening the bowling for Middlesex.
Well, the Kolpak is now dead, isn't it? After, it certainly will be dead when when the UK finally leaves the European Union. Of course, we're moving to 2 overseas players in the county championship.
Yeah, and that to me is a very positive move.
Indeed.
You go back 20, 30 years, and you had players who were equated with various counties. I'd love to see that again. I hope that doesn't just mean that we will get. We'll get someone for 5 matches, and then another guy for 5 matches, and then another guy for the T20 Blast, and another guy for the 100. I think it's. I would love to see that situation where you get an overseas player who is part of that county and remains part of that county for a whole year. I've never liked. Maybe it's because I don't really support a county as such, although I sort of follow Surrey, but I've never really been. Keen on this notion of bringing in stars for just short periods. I find that actually diminishes the county championship in my eyes.
It becomes, I think, there's just the volume of international cricket and the volume of other things to fit in. It just becomes kind of inevitable. I mean, maybe you will see it. I mean, maybe some players who might have been signed as Kolpaks, particularly from South Africa and the West Indies, will end up being signed as overseas players. There's a few more covers coming out. A tarp, which is playing merry havoc with the ground staff in this wind, is being dragged on, but then we're also seeing that the weather looks slightly clearer than it was 2 minutes ago, so God only knows what's happening. I mean, you don't go back to the mid 2000s, and I think it was probably when you had 2 overseas players, and you got someone like Mushtaq Ahmed that built up a huge reputation at Sussex, Darren Lehman at Yorkshire, and a few other players like that. Murray Goodwin, I know he qualified as English, so we may see a return to that. I think that extra density of quality players just massively strengthens the championship and is a huge acceleration of learning for other players.
Well, it will be interesting to see how many of those Kolpak players are retained as overseas players. I think it'll be absolutely fascinating.
I think Yorkshire are trying to convert Dwan Olafier's contract into an overseas contract.
Sorry, say that again?
I think Yorkshire are trying to convert Dwan Olafier's contract into an overseas contract, which will mean that he'll, of course, be able to play international cricket again.
Yeah, well, so that's the other side of the coin, isn't it? I mean, that's great news as well. It means that these players don't have to make a choice between international cricket and making a living on the county circuit.
Unless you're Irish.
Unless, of course, you're Irish, which is not so handy. So I suppose there are good sides to this and disadvantages as well.
I mean, one of Mashal's recommendations that he mentioned on air and also on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast was that there should be some reciprocal arrangement between West Indies and the English Cricket Board, an active scheme of getting back some West Indian players into first-class cricket.
Yeah.
West Indies have taken considerable, got out of their way to fit in with the ECB's plans this summer, and that would be one of the ways in which the ECB could return the favour by doing something to support first-class cricket in West Indies.
Yeah, there needs to be significant pressure put on the ECB to show proper, meaningful reciprocity for the West Indies for making this happen, which is primarily happening to. Obviously, having cricket back is wonderful, and this series has been fantastic, and we look forward to series against Ireland and against Pakistan, and then Australia when they come over in September for the limited overs tour. But it is primarily so that the ECB doesn't have a huge financial shortfall and some reciprocity, whether that's in terms of finances. The West Indies Cricket Board is still in significant debt, or it's in terms of longer series when England go to the West Indies. Something meaningful and tangible.
But staying on the subject of the overseas players in the county championship, I think that specific idea would make a real difference, because the great West Indies players the last 40 years have had significant experience in county cricket, and West Indies players tend to be the first ones to be disregarded, and in the same way as West Indies, you don't see too many coaches coming through the system either. So I think that, and don't forget the feature we ran during the second test, where we were joined by Chris Armstrong, who was talking about the problems that young West Indies players have getting visas to play club cricket.
Well,
in this
indeed,
country.
yeah.
The whole system is designed, and a lot of people in the Caribbean see it as England having rejected West Indies players. They used to welcome them, and now they're being rejected. And given the new Home Office visa regulations, it's not hard to see why people think that.
See also Windrush.
Yeah, I mean it's a massive problem. But
sorry, guys, they called lunch.
They called lunch. I was going to say I thought they were going to come back on because the sun had come back out again, but seemingly with 15 minutes to go to lunch, they have called for a break. What have you got lined up for us at lunch, Dave?
Yeah, lunchtime. We've got a discussion amongst some journalists from the Caribbean about what they would do with in terms of team selection moving forward and stuff. So we're going to be joined by Zahir Clark, who's given us some great stats during the series from the Jamaica Observer, and we've also got Lennox Aldridge, who's covering the series for the Jamaica Gleaner. So I suppose it would be a Jamaican conversation. Let's get Nash back on that. But I'll let them know that the lunch break has happened early.
Are they over here covering it, or are they covering it from home? Covering it from home.
Yeah, no one's come over really, apart from the Bishop and the Holding. There isn't anyone else here. No
actual written press here, which is a shame. But I suppose it's had to be kept down to a minimum for the biosecurity of the event. Yes, it's fascinating about this notion of struggling to get visas. But the trouble is, it needs the ECB to put pressure on the government, doesn't it?
That's what Chris said wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Well, just maybe this will have given them the nudge. I mean, I don't hold up much faith in that because I think once this series gone, the ECB are so inward-looking, they'll just sort of turn away and get on with the things they were doing before, like the 100. I don't have much faith in that. I really wish they would. I mean, there's so many of us involved in cricket peripherally who can see what some solutions are, but it seems to take ages for any of those solutions to get through to the people that matter.
We were talking about this a little bit yesterday during the well, not rain delay, but the wait for that day to be called off. And you mentioned self-interest, and I think that's the problem that cricket has, unlike football and rugby, where in football and rugby, for all of the ills of FIFA and UEFA, and I guess at Olympic level the IOC and the World Rugby Board, for them self-interest, their economic self-interest is in growing the game and opening up new markets. Because of the way cricket has been structured for so long and the way that it hasn't ever moved beyond being a closed, mostly Commonwealth, formerly Imperial shop, the people at the top of the game, which now includes India, who've basically just taken over the existing kind of colonial era system, essentially, and taken what England and Australia used to do, their interest is in keeping the game closed and keeping control, and so therefore the game hasn't grown at the pace that it has needed to grow in order to make it a truly global game.
I think one of the problems as well is if you're talking about West Indies players coming over, those ones that are on either in the West Indies team or are on the brink of getting into the team or in the 25-man squad, whatever it may be, you've got a problem now where the West Indies do play test matches in the Caribbean in what we call our summer, don't they? They play a lot more test matches in the likes of May and June than they ever did
and August.
When I was young. So if you do get players over here, are they likely to be called back to take part in that?
Well, I think,
and then also towards the end of the season, are they going to be picked up for the CPL?
Well, I think that this goes back to, the notion of someone being here for the whole season. I know that's ideal, but I think, Hendo, that's something we've got to move on from. I think you've got to get used to some people coming over for a couple of months. I think there's a big difference between signing Dwayne Bravo up to play a one-day final, on a one-match deal, and someone coming for 2 months, to play first-class cricket. I think there's a big difference in that, and I don't think we should rule that out. The idea that those two overseas players may be different during the course of a season. You might have someone for the first half of the season and someone for the second, because with the Test match calendar as it is, you're not going to get the blank April to September period for any international cricket.
You might get. You have tended to get players who aren't in the national setup. So somebody like Peter Hanscom's now on the fringes of the Australian team, or you've had players like Chris Tremaine who've come over. James Pattinson when he was in the international wilderness.
Can you name a West Indian in that category?
No, I don't think I can.
Players they wouldn't get a deal.
No, I think only players who finish their career, guys like Corey Collymore, Ravi Ramphal, Fidel Edwards.
Yeah, that's Kolpak. So you won't get for a whole season one of those West Indies fringe players.
So you wouldn't get somebody like Kieran Powell, say, or I'm trying to think of someone else, or Devendra Bishu.
Well, how about someone that we've talked about a lot but haven't seen in this series, who's we've seen him on YouTube. Someone like Jamal Holder, wouldn't he not benefit from coming over for 6 weeks at the beginning of an English season?
But it goes back to the county scene, and the you could call it racism or inbuilt bias that sees a West Indian overseas player or West Indian coach as being somehow a riskier proposition than an Australian or South African, and that's a fact.
I don't really understand that. I mean, I hate to think the notion that we've got more racist in the last 30 years, or we just had maybe we have.
Overt racism is far more acceptable in this country now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. But I would say that if you go back to the sort of late 60s, early 70s, there was it was more ingrained, but less forceful, I would say. I think it's become more obvious now. It's just, well, none of us in cricket can understand that, can we?
Hendo, you'll have to tell me why there's not a single West Indian in any coaching position in English cricket, having been a lot of West Indians playing county cricket at one stage. Not a single one of them moved into a coaching position, even though many applied.
That is a good question. It actually takes me back to last night. I was having a little read of the special on black cricketers that the Cricketer did this month, and the article, especially by Mike Brearley. I don't know if anyone had read that, and he was kind of admitting to the fact that maybe there was a certain amount of unconscious bias, that in some way we see Caribbean cricketers as slightly lazier or less committed. And he was even talking about the fact that of when he used to drive Roland Butcher around quite a lot when he was captaining him for Middlesex, and coming across to Roland Butcher to say that he'd given away his wicket too easily, and now thinking back on it, was that in some way racist? And so there are a whole lot of questions to be asked here, but it is, I don't know, it just needs people to turn around. I mean, it's the same in football, isn't it? How many black coaches have we got in football?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, one of the most entertaining teams I saw this last season, this truncated season, and I got to see them a couple of times because they played at Wimbledon in League One, was Doncaster Rovers, who were managed by Darren Moore, and they played some lovely football. I mean, if they had someone who could finish, they'd have been top of the league without question. But why are there so few players being in those positions as well? I find it hard to believe that the racism has got more obvious.
Can I just say that I don't?
Well, I do. I find. I mean, I'm very surprised these days to find the level of racism when it does occur. Because I don't think we're always aware of it, and then suddenly you will hear someone say something, and you won't realise they've been holding this view in for however long.
You just have to look at the way politics and society has gone over the last 10 years.
Well, yes, I mean, it's a societal problem. Absolutely.
It's a cricketing issue. Let's bring it back to cricket, please. I was making the point that cricket clubs and cricket counties see a West Indian as somehow riskier than getting a South African or Australian